Hello dear, what you're about to hear may sound unbelievable, but stay with us. Sometimes truth hides in the most unexpected places. This story begins with an interview that was never meant to be seen by the public. It wasn't published, broadcast, or acknowledged, not until now. And yet, here you are, reading the words that were once buried. The man at the center of this mysterious conversation, Albert Einstein. It's said that in 1954, just 1 year before his death, Einstein had a deeply personal and private conversation that was instantly classified by those who heard it. For decades, the existence of this interview was denied by the scientific establishment. But things changed in the 21st century when a surprising discovery came to light. Hidden away in the forgotten personal archives of Dr. Kurt Gödel, Einstein's close friend and fellow thinker. What emerged wasn't just an interview. It was more like a confession, a rare moment where one of the most brilliant minds in history shared his thoughts on what happens after we die. Thoughts that could change how we see life, death, and the very nature of reality. Now, before you jump to conclusions, we get it. This might sound like fiction, like some dramatic story made to stir up excitement. But in 2022, in an old safe with a double bottom hidden away in Princeton, a manuscript attributed to Gödel was discovered, and the first line of that document gave chills to those who read it. These confessions may change humanity or destroy it. The interview begins with a simple but profound question from the anonymous journalist. Professor Einstein, do you believe in life after death? There's a long pause, the kind of pause where silence says more than words. Then a faint smile from Einstein. He replies, to believe is not the right word. At my age, I prefer to know. That answer caught the interviewer off guard, so he pushed further. But science, your science, has always rejected the idea of a soul, hasn't it? Einstein leaned in. Not my science, he said. What most people call science only deals with what we can see and measure. But it completely ignores anything that can't be put into a formula. And now, I want you to listen carefully, he continued. What I'm about to tell you must stay between us, at least until the world is ready to hear it. Life does not end at death. This isn't a theory or a guess. It's something I came to understand, not through physics, but by exploring the structure of time and space itself. The journalist sat stunned. Are you saying you believe in the soul, in heaven? Einstein's response was calm, almost poetic. I'm talking about continuation, about transformation. Think of a wave on the ocean. As long as the wind blows, the wave exists. But even when the wind stops and the wave disappears, the water is still there. The energy is still there. It hasn't gone anywhere. Human consciousness is like that wave. The body is just a temporary form it takes. When the body dies, the consciousness doesn't vanish. It simply returns to the ocean. The interviewer sat in silence, letting that image settle in his mind. Then he asked, but how does this fit with the theory of relativity? Einstein smiled again. Relativity is about energy and matter. But there's something else, something it can't measure. The observer, the one who sees, that observer is consciousness, and it doesn't come from matter. It's not created by the brain. It exists first. Everything in the universe is possible because someone perceives it. The ancients had this idea long ago, but I reached it through equations and paradoxes, the double-slit experiment, quantum entanglement. They all point to one conclusion. Consciousness isn't just part of the universe, it shapes it. And when we die, consciousness doesn't disappear. It goes back to where it came from, pure awareness, the source of everything. The journalist leaned in, almost whispering. Then, what about God? Einstein didn't hesitate. God isn't a man in the sky with a beard. God is the ocean itself. All consciousness, from every living being, flows back into it. That's why no soul is ever lost. No life ever truly ends. Death isn't the end. It's a return. It's going home. The reporter slowly lifted his eyes from the pages of his notebook. Outside, the wind made a low, distant sound, as if the world itself was holding its breath. It was the spring of 1954, but there was little warmth in the air. A quiet tension seemed to hang over everything. "Professor," the reporter said carefully, his voice unsure, "I hope you don't mind me being direct. But how can someone with your scientific background speak so confidently about something that sounds so mystical?" Einstein leaned in. His expression changed, growing darker and more serious, as if he were about to share something he kept hidden for a long time. "You think I'm speaking from belief?" he asked. "No, this isn't faith. It's knowledge. I've seen patterns, deep patterns that most overlook. While working on my unified field theory, I began to notice something strange. There's a connection, one that links matter, energy, and even consciousness. At the start of the 20th century, we thought atoms were the smallest pieces of the universe, the unbreakable building blocks. But we were wrong. Inside the atom is mostly empty space, and beyond that emptiness are vibrations, a kind of hum that fills the vacuum. But even that is not the end. Beyond the vibrations lies mind." He paused, letting the words settle. Then he asked, "Do you know about the Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen paradox?" "Yes," the reporter replied. "It's the quantum entanglement idea. When two particles are linked, they stay connected no matter how far apart they are." Einstein nodded slowly. "Yes, but this isn't just about particles. It's a clue. It shows us that everything is connected. And if that's true in physics, then maybe, just maybe, it's also true for consciousness. If two particles can stay linked across space, why can't two minds remain linked, even across death?" The reporter felt a chill drift into the room. It suddenly seemed colder, as if the air itself had shifted. He hesitated, then asked, "But Professor, if you're right, then that means—" "That consciousness doesn't live in the brain," Einstein said, finishing the thought for him. "The brain is not the source, it's the receiver. Think of it like a radio picking up a signal. When the radio breaks, the music doesn't stop existing. It just stops playing through that device. In the same way, when the body dies, the consciousness doesn't vanish. The signal is still out there, carried in something invisible. Some call it the ether. Like radio waves, it continues even if the receiver no longer works." The reporter's hand trembled slightly as he turned back to his notes. "Why now?" he asked quietly. "Why speak about this now, after so many years of silence?" Einstein's eyes softened, but his voice remained calm and firm. "Because I don't have much time left," he said. "I feel myself nearing the edge, and this truth cannot die with me. Humanity is close, closer than ever, to a great revelation, one that could change how we view life and death. But timing is everything. If this truth spreads too early, it will be misused. People might twist it, weaponize it, use it for power or control. That's why I've stayed silent. But now I feel the age of pure materialism is fading. Soon science and spirituality will meet, and when they do, a new path will appear." Suddenly, the quiet was broken by the sound of a clock striking midnight. The chimes echoed through the room, each one heavy and deliberate. The reporter looked up. "It feels symbolic," he whispered, "as if the universe itself agrees with what you're saying." Einstein didn't smile. He simply continued, "You ask what's waiting for us after death. The answer is complicated. It depends entirely on how we've lived. Those who chased after power, pleasure, and selfish desires, who thought only of themselves, they don't move on easily. Their minds become trapped in what they've created. They remain stuck in the shadows of their past. But those who search for truth, who loved deeply, who helped others, they rise. They move closer to the source of all things. They find peace and perhaps a new beginning. The reporter's eyes widened slightly. So you're saying, there's rebirth? Einstein gave a small nod. Yes, but it's not automatic. Nothing is forced. We always have a choice. That's the greatest law of all, free will. Consciousness can return, again and again, to grow, to learn, to help. But one day, when it's ready, it can choose to stop. That moment is what ancient teachings called liberation. When it happens, the soul doesn't vanish. It becomes something greater. It returns to the source, not as an empty shell, but as light, pure, and full of love. There's no fear, no pain, just onness. He turned to look out the window into the deep black of the night sky. We're all travelers, he said, and death. It's not a wall, it's a door. The room fell silent. The reporter could feel the weight of everything that had just been said. Part of him wanted to ask more, to dig deeper. He felt as if one more question could unlock a truth that might change his life forever. But instead, he asked something else, something more troubling. If what you're saying is true, he began, then why don't other brilliant minds talk about it? Why is it kept so quiet? Einstein's expression changed into a faint, almost sorrowful smile. Because the truth is dangerous, he said. Not because it harms, but because it frees. And those in power fear freedom. Scientists are afraid of being laughed at. Religious leaders are afraid of losing their control. Politicians are afraid of people who think for themselves. Truth doesn't belong to anyone. It can't be owned. That's why so many fear it. Some knew the truth. Newton, Planck, Tesla, even Darwin, near the end of his life, started to sense that something deeper was guiding everything. But most of them stayed quiet, or they hid their ideas in metaphors. I did too. I stayed silent most of my life. But now, when I have nothing to lose, I can finally speak. The journalist's recorder continued to spin, capturing every word. His heart was racing, as if he was standing on the edge of something vast and unknowable. Einstein leaned back, his voice quiet again. You know the equation I'm known for, E equals mx squared. It showed that mass and energy are the same thing, just in different forms. But there's something else I haven't said publicly. Consciousness is a form of energy too. It's much more subtle, but just as real. And energy doesn't die. It transforms. When the body stops working, consciousness changes form. Different cultures have called it different things: soul, spirit, Atman. The name doesn't matter. What matters is that it continues. The reporter barely whispered his next question. Then, death isn't real. Einstein looked at him with kind, tired eyes. Death is real, but not the way people imagine it. Bodies die. Personalities fade. But the core of who we are, the consciousness within, that survives. Just like energy can't be destroyed, only changed, so too does the soul carry on. Every person who has ever lived still exists, just not in this visible world. Their thoughts, emotions, even their memories. These are stored in something much bigger, something vast and timeless. Some call it the Akashic field. The reporter gave a slow nod. He remembered strange dreams, moments of déjà vu, odd feelings that never made sense, until now. If all this is true, he said gently, why is there so much suffering? Why illness? Why loss? Einstein was quiet for a long time before he replied. Because pain teaches us. Suffering is not punishment. It's a classroom. Muscles grow by being pushed. The spirit grows the same way. Every hard moment, every heartbreak has a reason. It helps the soul grow stronger, wiser, more loving. Even if we don't understand it now, one day, when we look back from a greater place, it will all make sense. And we'll see that we were never alone. Not for 1 second. All of us are on the same path, heading toward the same light. The clock outside chimed again. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. Einstein sat still for a moment, then leaned forward. His voice changed. It became firmer, more urgent. "There's something I have to say before we finish," he said. "Something I can't leave out." He paused, searching for the right words. "Lately, I've been noticing a very troubling pattern. The world is moving faster than ever. Technology is racing ahead, but our values aren't keeping up. We're more connected through machines, yet we feel more separate than ever. People are beginning to see each other as threats, not as fellow human beings. And that's dangerous, extremely dangerous. If we don't remember that we're all part of the same human family, if we keep dividing ourselves, I fear we won't make it through the next 100 years." He looked directly into the reporter's eyes. His gaze was steady and intense. "That's why I agreed to this interview," he said. "Maybe it'll be my last. But I want these words to stay with you, and with anyone who reads them in the future. Death isn't the end. Our real enemy isn't another person. The real danger is ignorance. It blinds us. But knowledge, real understanding, that's like light. And light always pushes away the darkness." The journalist felt something stir deep inside him. It was more than just emotion. It felt like he had just witnessed something powerful, something that could change not only his own life, but the world itself. Einstein continued, his voice now gentle. "Share these thoughts with others, but don't force them. Truth isn't something you can push on someone. Every person has to come to it in their own time, in their own way. People always ask what happens after death, but maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe what really matters is how we choose to live before it. And if there's one thing that's real, one thing that never disappears, it's love. Only love endures." The reporter took a moment to breathe. He felt time pressing down, knowing he might never get another chance. He gathered his courage and asked the question he'd been holding back. "Professor, if what you're saying is true, can it ever be proven? Is there any way to know for sure that consciousness goes on after death?" Einstein leaned back, his eyes distant, almost as if he were seeing something no one else could. "Science depends on things we can measure and repeat," he said. "But some experiences don't work that way. You can't recreate them in a lab. And yet, they happen. Think of young children who remember lives they couldn't possibly have lived. Think of quantum entanglement, where two particles affect each other across space instantly. Something that makes no sense unless we accept some deeper invisible connection. Think of people who've nearly died and then come back with detailed knowledge of things they shouldn't know because they were unconscious when it happened." He gave a soft sigh. "Science will keep denying it for a while, but denial isn't the same as proof against. Quantum physics has already shown us that time and space aren't what we thought. Matter isn't really solid. Everything is energy. Everything is connected. One day, scientists will build tools that can actually detect changes in consciousness, even after the body dies. It's only a matter of time." Then he leaned forward again, as if he wanted to make something very clear. "But here's the real point. Even if tomorrow we had absolute proof that the soul lives on, it still wouldn't fix the biggest problem." The reporter looked puzzled. "What problem?" Einstein didn't hesitate. "The way we live," he said. "What good is knowing we don't die if we still treat life carelessly? If we understood, really understood, that our thoughts and actions never truly vanish, that they ripple out into the universe, we might live with more care, more kindness. But are we ready to carry that responsibility? That's the real question." Just then, the door opened quietly. A woman dressed in black, the professor's housekeeper, peeked in with a respectful nod. "Excuse me, gentlemen," she said softly. "It's late. Professor, you need to rest." Einstein nodded at her, but his attention stayed on the interviewer. "My body is tired," he said, "but my spirit still has more to give. If someone reads this years from now, maybe decades later, I want them to know I was never trying to sound mystical. I was searching for truth, and truth doesn't belong to any church or any lab. It belongs to those who look for it with an open heart." He slowly stood with some effort and added, "It's time to say goodbye. But this isn't the end. We'll meet again, where all paths lead." The journalist stood too moved to speak. He just nodded, the weight of the moment pressing into his chest. Einstein stretched out his hand. His final words were spoken so softly they were barely audible. "Remember this," he said. "Death is only a doorway for those who are ready to see through it. Protect what is good. The world may not be ready now, but its time will come." As pale morning light crept in through the window, Einstein turned his gaze outside. "You know," he said, almost to himself, "when I was young, I thought the most important thing in life was to find the laws of the universe. I wanted to unlock everything with a single formula. But the older I got, the more I understood. The greatest challenge is to understand yourself and how deeply you are connected to others. You can study science all your life, but the meaning of life, each person must find that for themselves." He paused and looked up at the sky, which was slowly turning blue. "We fear death because we think it means we're losing something. But in truth, we lose nothing. The things that really matter, love, kindness, memories, they stay with us. They go on, even if we don't fully understand how." The reporter quietly closed his notebook. "Thank you, Professor," he said. "I'll make sure your words are remembered." Einstein gave him a gentle smile, one filled with both sorrow and hope. "Don't just repeat them," he said. "Think about them. Reflect on them." They shook hands in the simplest and most human of ways. "Live without fear," Einstein said as they parted. "Live with curiosity. That's all that matters." The reporter stepped outside into the cool air of early morning. Behind him, the door slowly shut. Everything around him looked the same, but something inside him had shifted. He opened his notebook one last time and wrote, "What comes after isn't as important as what we choose to do now." He never added another word to that notebook. As he walked along a quiet street, the first green leaves of spring were beginning to appear. Thanks for watching till the end. If this made you think, give it a like and subscribe for more eye-opening stories. Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read them all. Until next time, take care and remember, truth often whispers.